Hey boys and girls, we're off on another adventure today, so get your best wearing shoes, ones that feel comfortable, and your traveling shoes. Get your walking shoes on and get ready to go. Get my hat, my whip, my Discover card, and I guess we better take the keys unless we're planning on walking. Hello. Today marks the ending of one chapter in the history of the Alabama Bigfoot Society. It also marks the beginning of a new chapter. As you all know, right after Christmas of 2017, Chico passed away, and it's been a whole lot different here at the Alabama Bigfoot Society without him. He accompanied us on many expeditions that we went on, trips at night, seminars, that type of stuff. Chico was always a part of it. Chico was what I have deemed the first Bigfoot research dog, and that's exactly what he was. Today I want to do a memorial tribute and funeral for Chico. Now before we do get started, as I mentioned on the last video that I tried to do, and I'm trying to do this one, that I am still in rehab and recovery from the heart attacks I've had, so occasionally I lose my voice. I do have to stop every once in a while and take a break. You'll just have to put up with that right now. I know there are going to be people, because I have already had some comments on that about doing a funeral for a dog or an animal. I have come in contact with a lot of people in this particular area who do not believe that any animal has a soul, that they do not go to heaven, they do not wait on us on the other side. Anyway, what I want to do real quickly before we get into the memorial service that I want to do for Chico is, let me get over here on the computer and check this. I want to tell you this real quick. According to the King James Version of Mark 16:15, let me get my other eyes on here so I can read it for you. This is why I believe that dogs do have souls, as well as horses, cats, all kind of animals do have souls. They do go to the other side. They do wait on us, or we go to the other side and we wait on them sometimes. In Mark 16:15 in the King James Version, which is the one that most people use, Bible that most people use, Jesus is speaking here, and he said unto them, Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Now, every creature, that includes all the animals and all the people of the earth. So if he wanted you to go forth and preach the gospel to every creature, why would you be wasting your time with them if they didn't have a soul or they could go to heaven? And also because I also want to go to the a Jewish Bible and tell you it's just a little bit different, but I want to tell you what the Jewish Bible has to say on that. Once again, it's Jesus speaking, and he said, Then he said unto them, As you go throughout the world, proclaim the good news to all creation. Now this is the complete Jewish Bible that I just quoted from. So not only to all creatures, according to the Jewish Bible, all creation. All creation includes everything, like trees and rocks and grass and that type of stuff. And that gets back to an Indian belief that there is a spirit within everything. Like rocks have a spirit in them, trees have a spirit in them. Trees and grass and stuff like that are alive. And it would very much go to reasoning that they have a spirit in them. After all, the way I look at it is, if you do believe the Bible and you are a Christian, we all have one heavenly Father. That's God. And he created us, and he created the world, he created the universe. So if we all have this one Father in common, aren't we all a part of each other, or have a part of each other in us? So anyway, that's why I'm doing this funeral service for Chico, is I believe that he is on the other side waiting on me now. Now right now, before we get things going, I've got on an old hat that I bought last fall to use for getting out in the woods over the winter, but I didn't get to do that because of the heart attacks that I had. And what I want you to notice about this old hat, one thing I want to tell you about it, after I bought it, whenever I would come in the house like last fall when it was a little cool and Chico didn't go with me, he'd be sitting like on his bed, or sometimes he'd be sitting on my bed. And when I would come into the room, the reason he sits on my bed is because there's a heater right next to it, and he would stay there to keep warm over the cold weather. But anyway, every time I would walk into the room wherever he was when I was wearing his hat, he would turn his head sideways like he was trying to get zeroed in on that thing to see what I had on my head. But anyway, the reason I've got this hat on today is because he did that, and I'm not sure if it was because his eyesight was getting bad. He did have cataracts, just like I had to have cataract surgery all last summer. Chico had cataracts in his eyes, and he had cataract surgery, and that was when he died. But anyway, the reason I've got this hat on is I took his leash and made a hat band out of it, and I want to show you that real quick. The reason I made a hat band to wear on his hat out of Chico's leash is sort of wherever I go, he'll still be walking with me, even though his physical body is gone and he's gone. His memory and his spirit will always walk with me. I always liked the Twilight Zone. It was a good series of shows that dealt with supernatural, paranormal, that type of stuff. One of the episodes, which is my favorite episode that I watch every time I can find it on YouTube, they take it off a lot, I guess because it's copyrighted. My favorite episode is The Hunt. The Hunt was written by Earl Hamner, who was the man that came up with the idea for the Walton series. If you remember that back in the, I believe, 1970s is when that was on. But anyway, The Hunt is about a man and his dog, and they both die. They both go to heaven. Near the end of it, the man's name is Hyder Simpson. The dog's name is Rip. Near the end of it, they are walking down Eternity Road. I'm not sure if they both realize they're dead or what, but anyway, they're walking down Eternity Road, and they run into a devil, and he tries to trick them into coming into hell. But anyway, he won't let the dog come in. So Mr. Simpson tells him that if Rip can't come into heaven, he's not coming in either. And they walk on down the road a little bit further, and they run upon this angel. And the angel is talking to him, and he wants him to come on into heaven, that's where they're supposed to go. So Mr. Simpson says he had talked to this other man up the road and said he wouldn't let Rip in. Now they thought where they were trying to get in was heaven, but it was actually hell. But then Mr. Simpson made a comment on there that is exactly right. He said, heaven must be a hell of a place if they won't let you bring your dog in. And the angel then told him, said that wasn't heaven, that the devil was trying to trick them into coming into hell. And then they talked on a few minutes, and the angel made a good statement on there. He said a man will walk into hell with both eyes wide open, but even the devil can't fool the dog. So now, as I've said many times in the past, I've got to change it up a little bit today, as we're having to do a lot of stuff here at Alabama Bigfoot Society. A lot of stuff is having to be changed because a lot of things unfortunately have changed. But now, from the tail end of the Appalachian Mountain Chain, in the heart of the South, come join us today as we remember Chico. Now, just let me say, as we get started, I'll have to be taking a few breaks and getting some water along, because I do still lose my voice from time to time. Excuse me. But just let me say, we do get this memorial started for Chico. If you don't believe dogs should have funerals, if you don't believe animals have souls and go to the other side or go to heaven or whatever you want to call it, then do not watch this video. That's about all I can tell you about it. So now let's begin with our memorial service and funeral for Chico. If you would, let us pray. Great Spirit, we ask that you be with us and give us the strength of spirit to pass beyond sorrow in this time of loss. Let us support each other with love in our hearts and allow that the relationships which Chico has begun among us continue to flourish. Surround us with your holy white light, your love, and guide us to peace of mind and understanding. Amen. One other thing that you'll have to overlook today is my reading glasses. I pretty much have to have those where I can see anything now, that I have had all this eye surgery on my eyes over last summer. So just bear with me on that. We come here today to remember and mourn the loss of what was my constant companion, Chico. Daily, he and I went to a national park, which was Horseshoe Bend, because he enjoyed walking there, getting out in nature there, relaxing there as I do. And I knew while we were doing this for about the last year that his life was getting short and he would not be here long. So I carried him down there every day so he would enjoy it. And he always recognized when we made the turn to go into the park, he would jump up in the window and start wanting to get out so he could walk and meet people and talk. People would talk to him and pet him down there, and he really enjoyed it. But not only do we want to mourn his loss, we want to celebrate his life, for he made everyone who he came in contact feel good. He made everyone smile. Although by human years his life was short, in dog years he lived a pretty long life. He was almost 15 whenever he passed away. Let me tell you a little bit about Chico. Chico was half poodle and half chihuahua. Now usually chihuahuas are known for their bad and short tempers, but if Chico had a temper, I don't remember he ever showed it to anyone. And over his life and over our travels, many people commented about this, about what a loving, caring little dog he was, and that indeed was Chico. Chico was born in Talladega, Alabama on July 4th, 2003. He was a run of the litter, and all of his brothers and sisters had found new homes by the time they were about 6 or 7 weeks old, but no one wanted Chico because he was the run of the litter. And his owner asked my son if he would like to have him one day because they were going to do away with him since no one wanted him. My son immediately took him, as his daughter had just been born about a year earlier, and Chico could be her first dog. After that, it was about a month later when it was the first time that I met Chico. I had heard lots of stories about him, especially how he loved to play ball. Now, Chico was named after another dog that was part Chihuahua. His name was also Chico. He was Chico Baker from down in Buxton, Alabama, and he lived near a junkyard and a mechanic shop. And when we would go down there to get parts for cars and everything, this dog was very intelligent, and he was a big ball player. So whenever my son got Chico, that's why he named him Chico, because of this other dog that we had known several years earlier. But anyway, I'm going to tell you about the first time that I ever met Chico. Was early one morning. My granddaughter, she was always bad to get up around 4:30 or 5 o'clock every morning and would not go back to sleep. Once she got up, she was ready to play and all this kind of stuff. And now that she had Chico, she had somebody to keep her occupied. But anyway, one Saturday morning about 6 o'clock, it was a cold, cold morning that morning. I can remember it very well. And I was piled up in my bed back there. A heater was going, the wood heater was, and it was good and warm in here. And I heard somebody open the front door. Well, I knew who it was. It was my son and his daughter. And I didn't know they had brought Chico with them that particular morning. They had been talking about Chico, telling me all about him, those things he did, and how much they thought of Chico. But anyway, I was laying in the bed back there, and I heard something come running up the hall. It didn't sound very heavy. Of course, Chico wasn't very heavy. I think when he weighed the most, he weighed about 9 pounds. Anyway, I heard this thing running up the hall, and it came running into my bedroom, and I pulled the cover down off of my face and looked up, and this dog, which I thought was a big black cat, was jumping up on the bed. He jumped up on me, jumped in my stomach as I lay there. And actually what went through my mind when I saw him and he was jumping on the bed on top of me. Of course, he was wanting to play. I thought it was a Black Panther. To tell you the truth, is exactly what I thought he was. But anyway, that was the first morning that I met Chico, and he had a big time up there on the bed, and he scratched, and he wanted to get under the cover to get warm because, as I said, it was very cold outside that morning. It was over a period of time. I guess it was about in the next 2 years that my son and his wife got a divorce. Well, my son kept Chico. That was decided that his ex-wife now did not want Chico, so Chico stayed with my son and lived with him for a while. And then one day, about a year or so later, my son decided to move back in with me so he could sort of save on power bills and that type of stuff. There was no use paying power bills and utility bills at two different places when we could all live together. But anyway, that was what he did. He moved in with me, and he brought Chico. And while my son worked, Chico and I would go places that we needed to go, like to the grocery store, to the gas station, the post office, or just wherever we needed to go. We just got to. He just become a constant companion, and we would go places together, and everybody got to meet Chico, and we really had a good time meeting people, talking to people since he was there. In the wintertime, when it wasn't really cold, Chico would even go to church with me on Sunday night, and on Wednesday. Of course, now he didn't come in. He would sit in the car or the Jeep. I always had him a blanket in there where he could wrap up. And Chico was always kind of cold-natured. I bought him a sweater at one time, and it got to where in the wintertime that he would not get out of the house unless you put this sweater on him. Of course, I guess being cold-natured, the sweater felt good, and he would wear it in the car or the Jeep, and he would get under his blanket back there in the back, or usually he rode in the passenger side seat over there so he could keep an eye on everything. Now, one thing about Chico, when he was left at home by himself, I knew he was lonesome, but sometimes I just couldn't carry him. Like if I had somewhere like in the hot summertime to go, I just couldn't carry him. But anyway, if he got left at home by himself, he would find a napkin or some type of piece of paper, like out of the trash can or whatever, and he would tear this little napkin or whatever into 100 pieces. Just, I guess that was his little way of saying that he was mad. And whenever you come back in the house, you would find a napkin or a piece of paper torn in little tiny pieces, but it wouldn't be all over the house. It would be just in one little pile, like he sat there and just continuously tore it up. One Christmas now, we went to do some last minute Christmas shopping at Walmart, and it was pretty cold that night, and we decided we better not carry him. Hold on just a second. Since it was so cold, we decided we better not carry him because we didn't know exactly how long we'd be in Walmart doing last minute Christmas shopping. But when we came back in the house, Chico, on all of the Christmas packages that were under the tree, he had torn the paper off of every one of them. He didn't tear up the gifts or anything, like the plastic wrap or anything that was on them. He didn't chew the boxes or anything. He had just torn the paper off of every one of them, and then he had taken the paper and tore it into little tiny pieces like he would do a napkin. And they were just piles all over the floor in the living room whenever we came in that night. And it was pretty funny that he was letting us know that he was ticked off. He was mad. He was upset that he didn't get to go. Tearing up paper and chewing paper was one thing that we never broke him from all of his life. And sometimes whenever I left him like in the car or the Jeep and had to run into a store, like maybe a paper gas or something like that, sometimes I could come back out to the car or the Jeep, and he would be getting him a napkin and would be torn it up there on the seat, and he would be sitting in the back seat whenever I'd get in, like he didn't know anything about it. But I always kind of thought that was funny, that was just his little personality, saying that he was ticked off, and he was letting you know about it. Now, I do honestly believe that there was a time after we had been together for a while, he and I, after my son remarried and moved out, Chico and I were here together by ourselves, and We went everywhere together, except when the weather was so rough that I just didn't want to have him in the car or jeep to leave me by myself, either too hot or too cold. But there was actually a time that I feel like that we knew what each other was thinking. I certainly know that he knew what you were saying because he minded too well not to. You could tell him to do anything or whatever you want him to do, and he would certainly do it. He was just a real obedient little dog. He was a constant companion to me, and I guess I probably was to him too. As I said earlier, he had his little personality, and he had his little things that he enjoyed doing and that he liked to do. And I'm sorry that I'm losing my voice, but I am wanting to get this video done, and I'm going to try to push as much as I can. In the wintertime, while he lived here with me, on cold winter mornings, he would always have to go out to pee around about 6 o'clock. And there was a big magnolia tree in my yard that he always ran to. I would just let him out the front door, and he would go out and he would pee or whatever he had to do. And by the time I usually got something out to drink out of the refrigerator or whatever, or put another log in the heater or whatever, he'd be back at the door ready to come back in because the weather was cold. Whenever he would come back in, he and I would get back into bed, and we would sleep for about another hour or so. And always, whenever he came back in, he would want to jump up. He wouldn't want to sleep in his bed then. He'd want to get up there on the bed with me, and which I always let him. And he had his little morning ritual that he would jump over you 2 times, and then after he jumped over you and back, and then over you and back again, then he was ready to get under the cover because his feet were cold, and he was usually cold from where he had been out in sometimes a snow or a cold rain or whatever. But he and I would lay there for about another hour every morning while we caught that extra hour of sleep. But we had to quit doing that, and that's why I had to put him on a leash after we had several people move to town that were into dog fighting and that type of stuff, and they let the dogs run wild and free here in town, and there's nothing ever done about it. One almost got him one morning, and I heard the dog whenever it started growling and barking, and I ran to the door, and Chico was out running the dog at the time, and he come up the steps and ran in the house. And but we do have a lot of people here in this particular area that's into dog fighting, and I don't care one way or the other. If that's what you want to do, then that's entirely up to you. I just don't want it done in my yard to my dog. But anyway, one morning, someone tried to poison him one time, or he got a hold of some poison somewhere. I think it was in the yard. Somebody had dropped something out there because there were some other dogs in town that did come up poison. Anyway, I had to take a little break there because I am losing my voice. But anyway, we went to the vet, and after they got him over the poison, they checked him for heartworms and some other stuff and that type of stuff. And the vet told me, asked me up there that morning, she said, we checked him for worms, said he doesn't have any worms, said he doesn't have any eggs or anything, said it doesn't look like he's ever had worms. Said, what kind of stuff do you feed him? And I said, well, his favorite food is spaghetti. I can't remember what I always did. Whatever I was eating was what Chico ate that night. I'd fix him a plate of whatever we had. And I remember the first night that I had spaghetti after he had moved in with me permanent. I put him down some spaghetti in his plate down there, and I didn't cut it up or anything. He was just standing there trying to eat it the best he could. And whenever I looked at him, he had the spaghetti noodles were all hanging down his mouth and everything. He was sort of having a rough time eating it. So after that, I would cut the spaghetti noodles, or whatever you call them, up into about 1/4-inch lengths. That way he could eat them a whole lot better. But he liked spaghetti. That was his favorite food. And the last week that I was with Chico before I had the heart attack, something just told me that I needed to fix him a big plate of spaghetti. I knew he wasn't going to live much longer because he was getting old and he had a lot of arthritis and this type of stuff. And sometimes when he would jump up on the couch or on the bed, he would holler because he had arthritis bad in his hips and stuff. But anyway, He also liked hamburgers. Like if we were out on the road and I stopped at McDonald's or Wendy's or wherever, I'd always get him a hamburger and an order of French fries. And he would sit over there on the passenger side, and just like somebody, he would just sit there and eat. And one thing about him, whenever he was eating something, whether it was crackers or whatever it was, wherever the crumbs fell on the seat, he never left a mess. He always cleaned up all the crumbs that fell out, like from his French fries or his hamburger, because he was doing the best he could eating it. Anyway, a pizza. We used to eat pizza a lot. There's a place right down the road that serves pizza every day, and we would go down there a lot of times and pick up a slice or two of pizza and go on down to Horseshoe Bend for the rest of the afternoon. There was one brand of dog food that he liked, and that was filet mignon, and that was the only kind of dog food that he would eat. And anyway, after he had been here a while, which was when I started carrying him at night with us whenever we went out searching for Bigfoot. Along about this time, I had several reports from out west, California and Oregon, places like that, people that were spotting Bigfoot, and they would be seeing them with wolves or coyotes walking along with them, with the Bigfoot, I mean. And what I wondered was, these wolves or coyotes, were they pets of Bigfoot? And one night it dawned on me to carry Chico with us whenever we were out on location, so I could show Bigfoot that we liked other animals too, that we had pets. And thus Chico became the first research dog in the Bigfoot field. And I believe him being out there with us, sitting in my lap and rubbing him out there and petting him out there to let Bigfoot see that, I believe that it certainly paid off. It was after we started doing the YouTube channel, was whenever people first came in contact, the public first came in real contact with Chico, and seeing him out there along with us, riding in the car and jumping out and running down through the woods sometime, and getting out, just having a good time. Or maybe we were down at the Horseshoe Bend and I was filming him or whatever, and they began to request that we bring him to the conferences and seminars and stuff like that, all the events that we went to. And that's exactly what we did. We began carrying him with us, and he enjoyed the attention, especially from the little girls, because he still remembered my granddaughter, and he missed her very much after my son and daughter-in-law divorced. You could tell some days that he just he missed her, or I felt like that was what was wrong with him. The last conference, I guess you would call it, that Chico went to was about a year or so ago at Fort Payne. And if you go to the video Twilight Cabin, you'll see him on there in the kitchen up there that morning whenever we were fixing breakfast. And I think he walks out the back door one time, but that was the last conference he went to. He was on another video or two later than that, but that was the last conference he went to, and he really enjoyed it, because there was several little girls up there that were about the age of my granddaughter whenever the divorce came up, and they went their way, and Chico had to go his, and he had to come down here. That's what I told him several times. I always talked to him just like he was somebody, just like he was a human. And that's what I had told him several times, that I was glad that he had come to live with me. And then I would always make out like I was talking for him. And he said, well, I didn't have any choice. I just had to go to wherever I could find a place. But over time, Chico got old. As I said, when he passed away, he was about 15 years old. And his eyes began to sort of go bad about the same time that mine did. We both had cataracts. And that to me has always been a coincidence. Of course, I don't really believe in coincidences, but it was just kind of strange how I began having cataracts, and Chico had cataracts forming in his eyes at the same time. And what I have wondered is, many nights, and Dorothy can account for this also, many nights when we would go out on location, we were followed by vehicles whenever we'd be going out, and we would try to lose them the best we could so they wouldn't know exactly where we were going to look for Bigfoot. But many times on the dash, you could see these little red lights up on the dash, and I wondered if that was some type of laser light, pointer light, or something like that, and that's what caused he and I to have cataracts in our eyes at the same time. And it was on November the 18th that I had a massive heart attack, which began here one morning at the house, and of course I had to call ambulance to carry me to the hospital, and that was the last time I saw Chico alive. I didn't see him after he passed on, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But I was telling you that so I could tell you that he did die while I was in cardiac rehab. I had stents put in and that type of stuff in my heart, and I was not able to come back home. Chico had to have, at this same time, my son decided to carry him home with him. Since the weather was getting cold up here, and we couldn't leave him in the house without any heat, so my son carried him home. But prior to that, a few months earlier, we had carried him to the vet and had his eyes checked, and the vet said he was going to have eye surgery or he would go completely blind. And his eyes were just continuously getting worse. And my son called me one night and said Chico had got to where whenever he got out of his bed in his house, that he would just stand there and look around like he couldn't see anything, and said we needed to get him on up to the vet to have the cataract surgery. So that was exactly what he did. He carried him up there a few days before at Christmas. And anyway, the vet told him that because of Chico's age, that he might not come through the surgery. Chico was in pretty good health. He didn't run and play ball like he did when he was younger. Of course, he was almost 15, and that's pretty old. But anyway, Chico had the cataract surgery. He came through the surgery fine. They said the eye surgery was a success. That one eye was so bad that they couldn't do anything for it, or whatever had happened to that one particular eye. Of course, that's the way I am. I got one eye that I can't see out of. But he came through the surgery fine with his eyes. But within just a short amount of time, his kidneys began to shut down on him. And that's what he died of, was kidney failure rather than the surgery. He actually died with kidney failure after the surgery. He died on December the 27th, around 8 o'clock that morning. I was in rehab in Roanoke, Alabama. Chico was in Alexander City at a vet's office down there, which is about 60 to 70 miles apart. Roanoke is about 60 to 70 miles from Alexander City. And around 8 o'clock that morning, I was, they usually come in about 8 o'clock. We get breakfast over there. And I tried to sleep as late as I could. Anyway, I was asleep. But it was about 8 o'clock that I heard Chico bark twice while I was laying there in the bed, and I recognized his voice. He barked twice, and I found out later that day that was about what time he died that morning. So I think that his spirit, or whatever you want to call it, visited me that morning, and he was saying goodbye. Since I had been back home, it was several months later. Whenever I finally got to come home, I stayed in one of the other hospitals for rehab for right at 5 straight months before I got to come back home. Since I have come home, I have heard Chico on several different occasions. I've heard him drinking water out of his water bowl. You know how a dog sometimes, whenever they first get up or something's tickling the ear or whatever, how when they shake their head, how the ears make that flopping sound. I have heard that numerous times. And one night while I was laying in bed, I heard him walk across the kitchen floor. I've got a tile floor in there, and whenever he used to walk, his toenails would make a little sound on there, and I have heard him walking in that in the kitchen. over there one time. And one night, I'll tell you this real quick. One night, I heard him drinking water out of his water bowl. Now his water bowl ain't got any water in it, but it's still sitting where it always sat. Got to get it cleaned up, and I've got to get the house cleaned up. But anyway, it just something that I just don't put on priority. I'm just having to do a little bit along as I can with this, trying to get over this heart attack and everything. But one night I heard him drinking water, and he just kept drinking, and I just raised up in bed. I was asleep, and this woke me up. And I just raised up in bed, and as I would sometimes, would get on to him or tell him to do something or whatever, and I raised up in bed. It didn't dawn on me at the time that he was dead. I was kind of, I guess, between being awake and asleep. And I said, Chico, you're going to have to quit drinking water, go somewhere and lay down and go to sleep. And when I said that, the sound quit. So I know he was there and was still minding me. Chico, before he did die, for about the last 6 months, his hair began to come out from about his rib cage down across his tail and his hind legs. We'd also carried him to the veterinarian to see what that was. Did he have the mange? That's what I thought it was to start with. But it was not mange. It was a rare skin disease that poodles sometimes have, and that's what the vet told us. Said it was kind of a rare skin disease, and it did make the hair drop out from about their waistline. But it was about from his bottom of his rib cage on down across his tail and his hind legs. And whenever Chico passed away that morning, he asked my son if we would donate his body for research on this particular disease. And it was my understanding that Auburn University is the one that got his body to do research on that. And hopefully now, even in his death, he is still helping another dog or helping some dog's owner that would have a dog that the hair would come out. Maybe even in his death, he is still working to help somebody else or some other dog. His seat in the car, and I don't have the Jeep anymore, but his seat in the car is now empty, and his bed is empty here in the house. I still look for him every time I come into the house. I still look over at his bed, and I do feel his presence here a lot. And sometimes whenever going down the road, I'll still remember him in the car and look for him over there, looking out the window, as he always did. So now we want to conclude the funeral, and what I want to do is to go down to Horseshoe Bend, which was his favorite place in the world to go and walk and play. So we'll finish up the memorial service down there. All right, today we're down here to finish up Chico's funeral, and I'm going to turn the camera around up here to the parking lot. We always used to park right up there in that wide spot because that's where you're supposed to park your car. And then we, as you may have seen in a video or two, he always come walking around this curve, and he walked right along here, and he always had to stop right here and pee on this tree. This was Chico's pee tree. Then we would make the final walk on around the curve and like on around the park. Since the tree was where Chico always had to stop to pee, and I guess I'm gonna lose my voice again today, but anyway, if I do, we'll pause the camera and get started again. But what we're gonna do is symbolically return his body to the Mother Earth. Of course, his physical body's not here, but his spirit is. And over here, we have one of his towels that we always kept in the car because he always got cold from time to time, so we had to have something to wrap up with. This is his water bowl, and this is dust from a sacred Indian power point that we located a while back, and Chico had visited up there at night when we were looking for Bigfoot. So what I'm going to do now is symbolically return his body to Mother Earth. I return his body to the four directions: the east, the south, the west, and the north. Got to turn in a clockwise motion. So anyway, I return his body to the four directions. I return his body to the four winds. I done forgot what it's saying there. I return his body to the four seasons. And to the four corners of the earth. I will not say goodbye to Chico. Saying goodbye seems too permanent. I'll say farewell and so long until we meet again. Today, reverently, we commit the body of Chico to Mother Earth, from whence all life comes and to which all life must return. Let us be grateful for the life Chico lived and for all his life has meant to us. He danced to the music and now has had to pay the piper. And we have to be better for his blazing star passing our way. In placing the earthly remains of Chico in this ground, in these peaceful surroundings, we're saying goodbye to his physical being. But all our memories, love, and association of him we keep safely within our heart. Throughout the existence of mankind, the earth has been our grounding, our connection, and our support. When Chico was alive, he found rest and serenity in nature. Now in death, we commit his body to that same earth with the sure knowledge that he will find eternal peace. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We wish Chico peace in eternity. He has now entered the final sleep, free of pain, care, and worry. But his spirit will live on in all of us who knew and loved him and appreciated the part that he played in our lives. We bid him farewell now, taking our precious thoughts of him with us, and we leave this place in quietness of spirit, promising to live with renewed concern and affection for one another. I appreciate you being here today to honor Chico, whose memory will live on through each and every one of us. As we live today, let us remember within ourselves the memories and experiences of him that have been shared here today, using them in our lives to better ourselves and the world around us. I would like to thank you for attending and being a part of this service. It was a very difficult video to do. As I guess I'll bring this video to a close now, and as I always do, I'd like to say that the Alabama Bigfoot Society is run completely out of pocket. And if you would like to, and you are in a position where you can make a donation, that would be very much appreciated at this time. We do have caps, t-shirts, patches, and several other items for sale on our website. And if you'd be interested in purchasing one of those, just go to AlabamaBigfootSociety.com. I'll put a link to that site in the description box in just a few moments. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for watching these videos. And I'll just leave you with this thought. May the Great Spirit always walk close to you in your circle of life.